Alex Turner stared at the ceiling of his small apartment. The soft hum of the air recyclers was the only sound. Another sleepless night in New Eden Colony. 3 years since Kate died, and the silence still felt wrong. He turned to check the time. The glowing numbers on his bedside clock showed 4:30 a.m. No point trying to sleep now. His shift at the engineering lab started in 3 hours. Alex pushed himself out of bed and walked to the kitchen. The apartment was designed for efficiency, not comfort. Just enough space for one person who spent most of their time working. He made coffee and looked out the window at the dome that protected New Eden from the harsh atmosphere of Europa 7, the terraformed moon they called home. The artificial dawn was beginning. Light panels on the dome ceiling gradually brightened to mimic an Earth sunrise. It never looked quite right to Alex. His communication panel beeped. A message from Diane Powell, his friend from the hydroponics department. "Don't forget lunch today," the message read. "I have something to show you," Alex sighed. Diane meant well, but she worried too much. Ever since Kate's shuttle accident, Diane had appointed herself as his social guardian. He typed a quick reply agreeing to meet her. At the lab, Alex worked on propulsion designs for the colony's supply shuttles. The work was challenging enough to keep his mind busy. He lost himself in calculations and simulations until Diane appeared at his workstation. "Ready for lunch?" she asked. They sat in the colony's central garden. Real plants grew here, not just the algae and fungus that made up most of their food supply. It was the closest thing to Earth in the colony. "You need to get out more," Diane said between bites of her synthetic protein sandwich. "I get out," Alex replied. "I'm out right now." Diane shook her head. "I mean socially. You can't keep living like a ghost." Alex looked away. "I'm fine on my own." "No one's fine completely alone, even you." Diane pulled out her tablet and slid it across the table. "Have you seen this?" The screen showed an advertisement. "Cellarian Companion Program now open to civilian applicants," the headline announced. Below it was an image of a blue-skinned humanoid with silver eyes and delicate markings on their face. "You're joking," Alex said, pushing the tablet back. "The first group arrived yesterday," Diane said. "The Galactic Trade Commission finally approved civilian contracts," Alex frowned. "It's glorified slavery, Diane." "It's not," she insisted. "The Cellarians enter the program voluntarily. They get education and resources for their homeworld in exchange, so they say." "The selection center is open today," Diane continued as if he hadn't spoken. "We could just go look." "Absolutely not." 3 weeks later, Alex found himself standing in front of the Companion Selection Center. He still couldn't believe he was here. But the nights had grown longer, the silence heavier. The building was new, constructed near the colony administration offices. Inside, a human receptionist greeted him with a practiced smile. "First-time visitor? We'll need to register you and go through the compatibility screening." Alex almost turned around then, but something stopped him. Curiosity, maybe, or loneliness. He followed the receptionist to a small office. The screening was surprisingly thorough. Questions about his work, his living situation, his expectations. The administrator explained the legal details of companion contracts while Alex barely listened. "The initial term is 1 Earth year," the woman said. "After that, you can renew or terminate the contract. The companion receives education and a stipend, plus a payment to their community fund on Cellar." "And they really volunteer for this?" Alex asked. The administrator nodded. "Cellarians have a very different culture than humans. Their society is based on complex social hierarchies. The companion program offers opportunities they wouldn't have at home." Alex wasn't convinced, but he completed the registration anyway. What harm could it do just to see? The viewing area reminded him uncomfortably of an animal shelter. One wall was transparent, showing a large room where about 20 Cellarians sat or stood. Their blue skin ranged from pale aqua to deep indigo. Most had their eyes downcast or were looking at tablets, ignoring the humans on the other side of the barrier. "Take your time," the administrator said. "If you make a connection, we can arrange an introduction." Alex was about to leave when he noticed her. A female Cellarian with sky-blue skin and silver-white markings that curved around her eyes and down her neck. Unlike the others, she was looking directly at the humans, studying them with open curiosity. When her silver eyes met his, she tilted her head slightly. Then she walked toward the barrier where Alex stood. She was tall and graceful, her movements fluid. Up close, he could see that her markings had a faint luminescence. She placed a six-fingered hand against the transparent wall. "Her name is Lyra," the administrator said, appearing at Alex's side. "She's new to the program. Her educational interest is in theoretical physics." "Physics?" Alex asked, surprised. "Cellarians have advanced understanding of certain scientific fields, but their social structure limits who can pursue education." Lyra was still watching him, her expression unreadable but somehow expectant. "Would you like to meet her?" The administrator asked. Alex surprised himself by nodding. In a small meeting room. Alex sat across from Lyra. A basic translation device sat on the table between them. "Hello," Alex said, feeling awkward. "I'm Alex Turner. I'm an engineer." The device translated his words into musical tones. Lyra responded, her voice melodic even to his untrained ear. The translator rendered her words in flat, mechanical English. "I am Lyra. My full name is unpronounceable to humans. I am interested in physics of space-time." "Why did you join the companion program?" Alex asked directly. Lyra seemed to consider her answer carefully. "On my world, I cannot study. My pattern caste is not permitted access to higher knowledge. Here I can learn, I can work." But you have to belong to someone," Alex said, uncomfortable with the idea. Lyra made a gesture the translator identified as indicating amusement or irony. "On Cellar, I belong to my pod hierarchy. I have no choice in my belonging. Here I choose who I belong with. That is new freedom." Alex wasn't sure he understood, but something about her directness appealed to him. "I live alone," he said. "My wife died 3 years ago. I'm not looking for—" "I don't know what I'm looking for," Lyra nodded. "Companionship has many forms. Not all are romantic or physical. Sometimes it is enough to not be alone with one's thoughts." Alex felt a strange connection forming, despite the cultural gap between them. Or perhaps because of it. Lyra seemed to want something he could provide, access to knowledge and science. And maybe she could provide something he needed too, a reason to break the silence. "I'd like to offer you a contract," he said, surprising himself again. The administrator quickly appeared with paperwork. As Alex signed the forms, he wondered if he was making a terrible mistake. But when he looked at Lyra, he saw something in her silver eyes that gave him pause, not resignation or fear, but a spark of what looked strangely like hope. 2 hours later, they entered his apartment together. Lyra carried a small bag containing everything she owned. She looked around the sparse living space with evident curiosity. "This is home now," Alex said, unsure what else to say. Lyra turned to him, her expression serious but calm. "Thank you for choosing me," she said through the translator. "I will be a good companion," Alex nodded awkwardly. "We'll figure it out as we go." As Lyra explored the apartment, Alex watched her and wondered what he had gotten himself into. He had bought an alien companion out of loneliness and guilt. The strangest part was that she seemed genuinely pleased with the arrangement. The question was why and what would happen next. The first week with Lyra was strange. Alex gave her the small spare room that had once been his home office. She accepted it with a graceful nod but said little else. The translation device they used was basic, turning her musical language into simple English phrases that lost all nuance. Each morning, Alex would wake up and find Lyra already active. She sat perfectly still at the kitchen table, watching the artificial dawn through the window. The first few days, he tried to make conversation during breakfast, but their exchanges were awkward and limited. "Did you sleep well?" he would ask. "Sleep. Cycle adequate," the translator would respond in its flat voice. On the 5th day, Alex came home from work to find his apartment transformed. His cluttered desk was organized. His collection of engineering manuals, previously scattered across various surfaces, now stood in perfect order on the bookshelf. Lyra was sitting cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by his digital tablets. She looked up when he entered. "I hope this is acceptable," she said through the translator. "I adjusted your living space for better efficiency." Alex looked around, surprised but not upset. "It's fine, thank you." He noticed one of his work tablets was active, displaying the schematics for a new propulsion system he'd been designing. Next to it was a sheet of paper covered in strange symbols, Lyra's handwriting. "What's this?" he asked, picking up the paper. Lyra made a gesture the translator couldn't interpret. She tried again with different words. "Your design has ... problem. Inefficient fuel flow." I made notes. Alex looked more closely at the paper. The symbols were meaningless to him, but next to his schematics he could see what she was trying to indicate. There was indeed a flaw in the fuel delivery system he had missed. "You understand propulsion engineering?" he asked, surprised. The translator struggled with her response, finally producing "Physics Principles Universal. Your technology different, but laws same." That night, Alex contacted a colleague who worked in the linguistics department. The next day, he brought home a more advanced translation device. It was experimental, designed to learn and adapt to new languages. "Let's try this," he said, setting it up between them at the dinner table. "It should get better the more we use it." Lyra examined the device with obvious interest. She spoke a few phrases in her language, listening to the translations. The new device rendered her words more fully, capturing more of her meaning. "This is much better," she said, her silver eyes brightening. "The previous translator reduced my thoughts to simple concepts, like trying to explain color using only 3 words. Over the next few days, their conversations grew longer and more complex." Alex learned that Lyra had been studying Earth languages through his digital library when he was at work. "Your written language is easier than spoken," she told him. "I can read much better than I can pronounce." "Your English is improving quickly," Alex said. Lyra made a gesture that the translator now identified as modest acknowledgement. "I have strong pattern recognition. On my world, this made me unusual. Females are not typically trained for analytical thinking." "Is that why you joined the companion program?" Alex asked. He had been curious about this since they met, but hadn't known how to ask. Lyra was quiet for a moment. "On Sela, I was born into the artisan caste marked by these patterns." She touched the luminescent markings around her eyes. "I was expected to create decorative objects and then bond with a male from the administrator caste. But my mind worked differently. I saw patterns in everything, in light, in movement, in the equations that govern our universe." The translator struggled with some concepts but managed to convey her meaning. "I discovered physics texts brought by the first human visitors. I taught myself in secret. When the companion program opened to civilians, I saw an opportunity to learn openly." "But you had to give up your freedom," Alex said. Lyra tilted her head. A gesture he was learning meant she was considering a complex idea. "What humans call freedom is different from what Solarians understand," she said. "On my world, I had no choice in my path. My entire life was predetermined by my birth pattern. Here I made a choice. The restrictions of a companion contract are nothing compared to the restrictions of Solarian hierarchy." Alex thought about this as he showed her how to use the entertainment system. He selected a documentary about Earth, and they watched together. Lyra asked questions throughout, particularly about the natural environments. "Your world has so much water," she said, fascinated by images of oceans. "Your planet doesn't?" "Seller is mostly desert. Water is precious and controlled by the highest castes. Most like me never see open water in our lifetimes." Alex tried to imagine a world where something as basic as water was a luxury. It made him see his own circumstances differently. The next day was Alex's day off. Usually he spent these days alone, working on personal projects or simply sitting in silence. But having Lyra in his home had changed something. The silence no longer felt empty, it felt wasted. "Would you like to see more of the colony?" he asked her over breakfast. Lyra's markings brightened slightly, a sign of pleasure, he had learned. "I would like that very much." They visited the central garden. First, Lyra moved slowly through the space, touching the plants with gentle six-fingered hands. Her wonder at the greenery made Alex see the familiar place with new eyes. "These are all from Earth?" she asked, crouching to examine a small flowering plant, most of them. Some are hybrids developed here. They continued to the observation deck, where the dome's transparent sections offered views of Europa 7's landscape. Outside, the terraforming was still in progress. Patches of engineered lichen grew on the rocky surface, gradually converting the atmosphere. "Your species changes worlds to suit yourselves," Lyra observed. "Cellarians adapt ourselves to our world." "Instead, is that better?" Alex asked. "Neither is better. Just different approaches to survival." As they walked back toward the residential section, they passed the research center where Alex worked. He hesitated, then made a decision. "Would you like to see where I work? There's something I want to show you." Inside the facility, Alex led Lyra to his lab. A few of his colleagues were there despite it being a rest day. They stared at Lyra with undisguised curiosity. "Everyone, this is Lyra," Alex said, feeling oddly protective. "Lyra, these are my colleagues." He showed her his workstation and pulled up the propulsion design she had commented on earlier. "You spotted a flaw here," he said. "I'd like to understand how you saw it." For the next hour, they worked together, Lyra explaining her understanding of fluid dynamics while Alex translated it into engineering terms. His colleagues gradually drifted over, initially skeptical but increasingly impressed by Lyra's insights. By the time they left the lab, something had changed between them. The awkwardness was gone, replaced by a sense of mutual respect and understanding. Walking back to the apartment, Alex realized he felt lighter than he had in years. The guilt he had felt about purchasing Lyra was fading, replaced by appreciation for her company and her mind. "Thank you for today," Lyra said as they reached their door. "On Cellar, I would never have been allowed inside a science facility." Alex looked at her, really seeing her for the first time not as an alien or a companion, but as a person with dreams and frustrations not so different from his own. "Tomorrow," he said, "I'd like to hear more about your theories." "Maybe we can work on something together?" Lyra's markings glowed brighter than he had ever seen them. "I would like that very much, Alex Turner." A month passed, and Lyra became a regular presence at the research lab. Alex's supervisor, Pete Harris, had been hesitant at first about allowing a Cellarian companion into the facility. But after seeing her work on the propulsion system, he changed his mind. "She can't access classified projects," Pete told Alex, "but she can help with the civilian shuttle designs." Alex nodded, grateful for the compromise. "Thank you. She has insights that could save us months of work." Lyra adapted quickly to the lab environment. She learned to use the human design software and created her own workspace at a small desk near Alex's station. Other engineers began to consult her about problems, especially those involving complex fluid dynamics. Their home life settled into a comfortable routine. In the evenings, Alex taught Lyra about human culture and history. While she shared stories about Cellar, they discovered shared interests in classical music and space exploration. Sometimes they simply sat together in companionable silence, each working on their own projects. One evening, Alex noticed Lyra watching him with an intensity that made him curious. "Is something wrong?" he asked. "I am trying to understand something," she replied, her English now fluent thanks to the advanced translator and her quick learning. "When we first met, you seemed uncomfortable with the companion program, yet you participated." "Why?" Alex considered the question. "I was lonely," he admitted. "My wife died 3 years ago. Since then, I've just been going through the motions of living." Lyra nodded. "Loss changes the pattern of existence." "Have you experienced loss?" Alex asked, realizing how little he knew about her personal life before she came to New Eden. "My pod parent died when I was young," she said, "and I lost my place in Cellarian society when my interests were discovered to be inappropriate for my caste." "What happened?" Lyra's markings dimmed slightly, a sign Alex now recognized as sadness. "I was found with scientific texts. The punishment was removal from artistic training and reassignment to menial labor. If not for the companion program opening when it did, I would have spent my life cleaning waste processors. Alex was shocked. Old because you wanted to learn? Celery and society values order above all. Each caste has its purpose. Deviation threatens the whole system. She looked at him directly. That is why I am truly grateful for this opportunity, even if humans see it as a form of servitude. The next day, they were walking to the lab together when they encountered a small crowd gathered near the central plaza. People held signs with messages like "End alien slavery" and "Humans only." Alex tensed, instinctively moving closer to Lyra. "We should go another way," he said, but before they could turn, a woman spotted them and pointed. "Look, another one." With its owner, several protesters turned to stare. One man stepped forward, his face angry. "How can you participate in this program?" He demanded of Alex. "These aliens are being exploited." "You don't understand," Alex began, but the man cut him off. "They're taking jobs from real humans. They're changing our colony culture." Another protester, a younger woman with sincere eyes, approached Lyra directly. "You don't have to stay with him. There are advocacy groups that can help you return to your home." Lyra stood very still, her silver eyes taking in the scene with careful attention. When she spoke, her voice was calm. "I chose this path," she sighed. "On my world, I had no opportunities to pursue science. Here, I can contribute meaningfully to research that benefits both species." The woman looked confused. "But you're basically his property." "Your concept of property does not translate well to Cellarian understanding," Lyra replied. "In your terms, I would have been property of my caste on Cellar as well, with far fewer rights than I have here." The man wasn't satisfied. "They've brainwashed them to accept servitude." He shouted to the crowd. Suddenly, someone threw a cup of liquid that splashed across Lyra's shoulder and face. The blue fluid, some kind of sports drink, dripped down her skin, staining her simple gray tunic. Alex reacted without thinking. He stepped forward and shoved the man who had thrown the drink. "Leave her alone." Security officers appeared quickly, moving between the protesters and Alex and Lyra. "Move along," they told everyone. "Public disturbances are prohibited in the Central District." One officer, a woman named Officer Martinez, who Alex recognized from community meetings, approached them. "Are you both okay? Do you need medical assistance?" Lyra touched her face where the liquid had hit her. "I am unharmed. This substance is not toxic to my physiology." "I can file a report about the assault," Officer Martinez offered. Alex looked at Lyra, who shook her head slightly. "No," he told the officer. "We just want to continue to the lab." Officer Martinez nodded. "I'll escort you there." These protests have been growing lately. The Colony Council is divided on the companion program. As they walked, Alex noticed Lyra was unusually quiet. When they reached the lab and Officer Martinez left them, he found a clean towel for Lyra to wipe the blue stains from her skin. "I'm sorry about what happened," he said. "Not all humans think that way." "I know," Lyra said, "but I am more concerned about your reaction." "My reaction?" "You became angry." "Physically aggressive?" Her markings pulsed in a pattern Alex hadn't seen before. "This is unlike your normal behavior pattern." Alex felt embarrassed. "I was trying to protect you, I understand. But it troubles me to be the cause of conflict." Later that evening, back in their apartment, Lyra seemed deep in thought. She sat by the window, looking out at the stars visible through the colony. "Dome, would you prefer to return to Cellar?" Alex asked, worried that the incident had changed her mind about staying. Lyra turned to him. "No, but I think I should explain more about my world so you understand why I am here." She told him about Cellarian evolution, how their species developed in isolated pods where strict hierarchies ensured survival in a harsh environment. She explained how these biological origins shaped their current society where individual choice was seen as dangerous to group stability. "The companion program is controversial among Cellarians too," she said. "The older generations see it as a threat to our way of life. But for some of us, those who never fit into our assigned roles, it represents the first true autonomy we have ever experienced. Alex sat across from her, absorbing this new perspective. I never thought of it that way. Humans see freedom as a universal right, but we assume everyone defines freedom the same way we do. Exactly, Lyra said, her markings brightening. What? Looks like servitude to you might be liberation to me. Context changes meaning. That night, Alex checked his messages before bed and found an anonymous note. Race traitor, alien lover, watch your back. He deleted it without mentioning it to Lyra, but the next day there was another one with more specific threats. Concerned. He showed the messages to Lyra. She read them without visible reaction, then looked up at Alex. Are you afraid? He considered the question honestly. Not for myself, but I'm worried about you. If these people decided to act on their threats? Lyra's posture straightened, and her markings glowed with a new intensity. On my world, we never had the freedom to choose our battles. We simply endured what came. Now, I do have a choice, and I choose to continue our work together. She placed her six-fingered hand on his arm, the first time she had initiated physical contact. I will not let fear of the ignorant few overshadow the opportunity we have created here. Alex looked at her with new admiration. The alien he had purchased as a companion was proving to be braver and more principled than he had ever expected. And perhaps he realized she was teaching him more than he was teaching her. 4 months after Lyra came to live with Alex, the news broke. The Galactic Trade Commission announced they were reviewing the companion program, following pressure from Earth-based humanitarian groups. All companion contracts would be suspended. During the review, Ancellarians would be sent back to their homeworld. Alex read the announcement on his tablet during breakfast. His hand froze midway to his mouth. What's wrong? Lyra asked, noticing his expression. He handed her the tablet. Wordlessly. She read it quickly, her silver eyes scanning the text. Her markings, which normally glowed with a soft blue light, dimmed noticeably. How long do we have? She asked, her voice steady despite the circumstances. The announcement says 30 days, Alex replied. They're arranging transport ships now? Lyra set the tablet down carefully. I see. Are you okay? She looked at him directly. No, I am not okay, but I will adapt. It is what Cellarians do. Alex couldn't imagine Lyra going back to a society that would punish her for her intelligence and curiosity. Over the past months, she had become not just his companion, but his research partner and friend. The thought of her cleaning waste processors instead of designing innovative propulsion systems seemed deeply wrong. There must be something we can do, he said. The decision comes from the highest human authority, Lyra replied. What could we possibly do? Alex stood up, suddenly determined. We can fight it. Make them understand what the program really means. For Cellarians like you. That day at the lab, no one talked about anything except the announcement. Some humans seemed relieved. They had always been uncomfortable with the companion program. Others were concerned about losing valuable Cellarian insights from their research teams. Alex approached Pete Harris with a bold request. I need time. Off to travel to the Commission headquarters on Luna Station. I want to speak at the review hearings. Pete looked surprised. You're really invested in this, aren't you? Lyra has transformed our propulsion research. Sending her back to Cellar isn't just unfair to her, it's a setback for human science, too. Pete nodded slowly. Take the time you need. And tell them the engineering department supports keeping the program, with better oversight if necessary. That evening, Alex contacted other humans who had Cellarian companions. He discovered he wasn't alone in his concerns. A small group agreed to meet the next day to discuss strategy. When he told Lyra about his plans, she seemed troubled. You don't need to do this, she said. I accepted the possibility of return when I entered the program. But is that what you want? Alex asked. Lyra was quiet for a long moment. No, on Cellar, all I learned here would be wasted. I would be punished for contamination by human ideas. Her markings pulsed with emotion. But I fear that fighting the Commission's decision will only make things worse. How could it be worse than losing everything you've built here? By creating conflict between our species, she said. The companion program was meant to build understanding. If it becomes a source of division, Alex understood her concern, but his resolve didn't waver. Sometimes understanding requires standing up for what's right, even when it's difficult. The next day, 12 humans and their Cellarian companions gathered in a community meeting room. Alex was surprised to see Diane Powell among them. "You have a companion?" he asked. Diane nodded. "Kellen. He's a botanical specialist helping with crop development." She smiled slightly. "You weren't the only one who changed your mind about the program." The group discussed options for appealing to the commission. They decided to prepare testimonials from both humans and Cellarians, highlighting the positive aspects of the program while acknowledging areas that needed improvement. One of the Cellarians, a deep blue male named Torin, spoke up. "We should contact others across human colonies. This affects all companions, not just those on New Eden." Lyra, who had been quiet during most of the meeting, suddenly joined the conversation. "I can help coordinate that effort. I've been in contact with other Cellarians through the education network." Alex looked at her with surprise. He hadn't known she maintained connections with other companions. "We share information," she explained, seeing his expression, "about our experiences, our research, our concerns." As the meeting concluded, Lyra offered to draft a statement from the Cellarian perspective. The group agreed she was the perfect choice, given her clear communication skills and scientific background. Over the next week, Alex and Lyra worked day and night on their campaign. They gathered testimonials, prepared legal arguments, and coordinated with similar groups on other colonies. Lyra revealed herself to be a natural organizer, efficiently managing communications between dozens of Cellarians across human space. "You never told me you had these skills," Alex said one night as they worked side by side at their kitchen table. "On Cellar, leadership is not permitted to my caste," she replied. "I never had the opportunity to discover these abilities in myself." Alex watched her work, struck by how much she had grown since arriving at New Eden. The timid alien who had stepped into his apartment months ago had blossomed into a confident, capable individual. 3 weeks before the transport ships were scheduled to arrive, Alex and Lyra traveled to Luna Station. The massive space station orbiting Earth's moon housed the Galactic Trade Commission headquarters. The journey was Lyra's first time off Europa 7 since her arrival. She spent hours looking out the viewports of the transport ship, fascinated by the stars and the distant blue sphere of Earth. "It's beautiful," she said. "So much water, just as in the documentaries." "Maybe someday you'll see it up close," Alex said. Lyra turned to him, her expression serious. "Alex, there is something I need to tell you before the hearings begin." "What is it?" "My feelings for you have changed from what they were when we first met." Her markings glowed with a pattern he now recognized as indicating emotional intensity. "At first, I viewed our arrangement as transactional. You provided access to knowledge, I provided companionship. But over time, it has become something else." Alex felt his heart beating faster. "Something else?" "I care for you, not as a companion cares for a contract holder, but as one being cares for another who is important to them." She hesitated. "Humans might call it affection, though that word seems inadequate." "Lyra, She raised a hand to stop him. "Please, let me finish. I need you to know this is not because of gratitude or obligation. On Cellar, we believe true feelings can only exist between equals, between those who choose each other freely." She looked directly into his eyes. "The humans who oppose the companion program believe Cellarians cannot truly consent to affection because of the power imbalance. But they don't understand that you never owned my heart. You simply created conditions where I could discover it belonged to me first, and then I could choose to share it." Alex was deeply moved by her words. He had been fighting his growing feelings for Lyra, worried that any expression of affection would be inappropriate given their legal relationship. Now, hearing her speak so honestly, he felt a weight lift from his shoulders. "I care for you too," he said simply. "More than I thought possible after losing Kate. It happened so gradually I hardly noticed until it was already true." Lyra's markings glowed brighter than he had ever seen. Then, whatever the Commission decides, we face it together. Not as companion and contract holder, but as equals who have chosen each other. The Galactic Trade Commission hearings lasted for 5 days. Each day, different speakers presented arguments for and against the companion program. Alex and Lyra attended every session, listening carefully to each perspective. The opponents of the program spoke passionately about human rights and exploitation. They showed images of Cellarians working in human homes and laboratories, describing them as servants and property. A famous Earth activist called the program a stain on humanity's conscience and demanded its immediate end. The supporters focused on the benefits to both species. Human scientists presented data showing advances made through Cellarian collaboration. Colony administrators highlighted the resources being sent to Cellar, helping its struggling economy. On the 4th day, it was Lyra's turn to speak. She stood before the commission panel, her blue skin striking against the formal gray suit Alex had helped her select. The room fell silent as she began. Honored commissioners, I am Lyra of Cellar, currently residing on New Eden Colony. I speak today not as a representative of all Cellarians, but as one individual whose life has been transformed by the companion program. Her voice was steady, her English perfect. She described her life on Cellar, the rigid caste system, the punishment. For intellectual curiosity, the lack of choice in her own future. On my world, I was defined by birth markings I did not choose. My potential was limited by traditions I could not challenge. Through the companion program, I found something unexpected: agency. She explained how her work in propulsion engineering had led to breakthroughs that benefited both human and Cellarian space travel. She described the community of companions who shared knowledge across colonies, creating their own support networks. We understand human concerns about exploitation, she continued. Indeed, some companions have experienced mistreatment. The program needs stronger protections and oversight, but ending it completely would force many of us back into societies where we have even fewer rights. She concluded by looking directly at each commissioner in turn. The question is not whether all companions are happy. The question is whether we should have the right to choose this path for ourselves. True respect for our autonomy means allowing us that choice even if it differs from what humans would choose. When she returned to her seat beside Alex, he squeezed her hand gently. That was perfect, he whispered. The final day of hearings ended without a decision. The commission announced they would deliberate for 2 weeks before issuing their ruling. Alex and Lyra returned to New Eden to wait. The colony buzzed with speculation about the outcome. Some Cellarians began preparing for departure, while others, like Lyra, continued their work as if nothing had changed. In the lab, Pete Harris approached them with an unexpected proposal. Whatever the commission decides, I want to offer Lyra a position as an independent contractor. Her work is too valuable to lose. Alex looked at Lyra, whose markings pulsed with surprise and pleasure. Can you do that? He asked Pete. I've already spoken with colony administration. If the commission allows Cellarians to remain with independent status, we have budget approval. It was the first hopeful sign that things might work out. That evening they celebrated with a small dinner party, inviting Diane and her companion Kellen, along with a few other friends from the movement they had helped organize. As they shared a meal, Alex looked around at the mixed group of humans and Cellarians talking, laughing, and debating ideas together. It seemed so natural now, so right. It was hard to believe he had once viewed the companion program as nothing more than exploitation. 2 weeks later, the commission's decision was announced throughout human space. Alex and Lyra watched the broadcast in their apartment, holding hands tightly. After thorough review, the Galactic Trade Commission has determined that the Cellarian companion program will continue with significant modifications, the spokesperson declared. These changes include, the list was long, but several points stood out immediately. Companions could apply for independent resident status after 6 months. New oversight committees would include Cellarian representatives. Education programs would be expanded. And most surprisingly, relationships formed during companionship could be legally recognized if both parties applied after the companion achieved independence. Alex turned to Lyra, hardly daring to believe what they had just heard. They listened. They actually listened to us. Lyra's markings glowed with joy. Not just to us. To all the voices that spoke truth about our experiences. In the following weeks, New Eden Colony buzzed with activity as the new policies were implemented. Lyra was among the first Cellarians to apply for independent status. Given her contributions to engineering research, her application was approved quickly. Pete Harris made good on his promise, offering her a position that paid the same salary as human engineers with equivalent skills. She accepted immediately. Alex helped her find an apartment of her own, though it was just 2 floors below his. They both agreed it was important for Lyra to experience true independence, to have her own space that belonged solely to her, but they still spent most evenings together, sometimes working side by side on research projects, sometimes simply enjoying each other's company. Their relationship evolved naturally, without the legal framework of the companion contract defining their interactions. 3 months after gaining her independence, Lyra was invited to join the Interspecies Scientific Exchange, a prestigious program that brought together researchers from all known intelligent species. Her work on propulsion systems had attracted attention beyond New Eden. Will you accept? Alex asked when she told him about the offer. Yes, she said without hesitation. But it doesn't mean I'm leaving. The exchange has a branch here in New Eden. Alex smiled. I wouldn't hold you back even if it meant you had to go elsewhere. Your work is too important, as is yours, she replied. Perhaps someday we will work together on an exchange project. Their relationship became a subject of interest in the human media. A reporter from Earth requested an interview about their unusual partnership. After some discussion, they agreed to speak publicly about their experience. The reporter seemed most interested in the transition from companion contract to personal relationship. Many humans still find it difficult to understand how a relationship that began as essentially a purchase could evolve into something genuine. She said. Lyra considered the question carefully. Happiness isn't a universal constant, she explained. What humans might see as captivity, we might experience as liberation. The true measure of freedom isn't the absence of obligations, but the presence of choice within them. Alex added, I thought I was offering Lyra a way out of a bad situation. What I didn't understand was that she was offering me something too, a new perspective on what freedom and connection really mean. 6 months later, the colony received unusual visitors. A delegation from Cellarian High Society arrived on New Eden, the first official visit since the companion program reforms. They requested a meeting with Lyra specifically. She received them in her lab with Alex present for support. The leader of the delegation, an elderly Cellarian with elaborate facial markings, spoke formally. Your work has brought attention to our species. The interspecies exchange values your contributions highly. Our society is reconsidering certain traditions in light of these developments. The delegation invited Lyra to return to Cellar not as a disgraced member of the artisan caste, but as an honored scientist who could help bridge the gap between their cultures. Lyra listened to the offer with perfect composure. When they finished speaking, she looked at Alex briefly, then turned back to the delegation. I am honored by your recognition, she said. I would be pleased to visit Cellar and share what I have learned. But my home is here now, where my choices led me, my work, my relationships, my life, they are all here. The delegation accepted her decision with formal courtesy, though Alex could see they were disappointed. Later, as they walked through the central garden together, Alex asked, Do you ever regret not returning to your homeworld as a respected scientist? Lyra stopped to touch a flowering plant, her 6 fingers gentle on the delicate petals. No, she said simply. That path would honor tradition, but not truth. She looked up at the stars visible through the colony dome. The universe is vast, with many paths possible. I chose this one with all its uncertainties and discoveries. She turned to Alex, her silver eyes reflecting the starlight, including you. Alex took her hand, still amazed at how perfectly their different forms fit together. Including us, he corrected gently. Together they continued their walk under the artificial sky, two beings from different worlds who had found in each other not ownership or obligation, but the rarest thing of all, a freely chosen connection that made them both truly happy.